Morning folks, Sasquatch here. So today you're going to see the life of a log or a tree once it comes to the lumber yard. So what we're going to do here is some of these logs are actually going to get sold for veneer. Some of them we're going to leave here at the mill and actually saw. So we're going to be cutting some of these up here, and one of these logs is going to get to go on the mill, and we're going to take and cut it into lumber, and you're going to see that process. So we'd like to show you the process of going from basically a tree once it arrives here all the way through to the end when it's sticked up on a pack of lumber and is in the lumber form. So that's what we're going to do here today. You're going to see the chainsaw working. You're going to see the Cat 950 handling the logs, and Mel's going to be running the Cat 950. I'm going to be doing the cutting, and Mrs. Sasquatch is doing the camera work. It's just been very wet year out here in Oregon, so like most lumber yards and mill yards, it gets a little on the muddy side. So doesn't matter how much gravel you have, it just continues to be mud. So anyway, we're going to get started. Thanks for watching, and by the way, if you like these videos, hit like and subscribe, please. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great day. Sasquatch out. We're going to lift it up. We're going to trim off that end down there. Then I'm going to cut this end back and see what we can get, because it's kind of split up down here. So we're going to see what we can get out of this. Once we're done, we're going to put the whole tree length thing over there somewhere, and we're just going to start laying them out. That's going to be the veneer logs. So when I say veneer logs, they go over there. Saw logs, I don't know, we'll put out here somewheres or something. So anyway, all right.
Hi, Mrs. Sasquatch here. Having the Cat 950 is super handy for so many things, not the least of which is holding a log while we cut it to size. It sure beats cutting a log on the ground. With a bar that long on a chainsaw, it is nice to have the log at a more workable height. It definitely can decrease the risk of biting into the ground, which, if we're honest, can happen after you have wheeled that bugger for a while. It sure gets fatiguing. Looks like Mr. Sasquatch is making sure his boots don't gather chips from the chainsaw. When we're working in the woods or on more dangerous ground, we will wear chaps to prevent injuries from the chainsaw. Certainly they don't stop the blade completely, but chaps can be an important part of the PPE. We also use eye pro and ear pro when we're working on or around the mill. When stacking overhead, we also don our hard hats. High visibility gear is used at our mill when we're working around different parts of the yard or escorting guests. As you may have noticed, our chainsaw is running a little less than desired here. The bark had some hidden stones and dulled the blade. We sharpen it, and it does run better later in the video.
that way. 37 that way.
As you can see here, Sasquatch is undercutting the log to avoid splintering when the log separates. The weight of one side of the log could bust it from the bottom, causing a large splinter chunk to come off of the other side of the log if it isn't cut on the bottom prior to the critical mass point. Here you can note Sasquatch put a log round down to help avoid the log being cut and rolling towards him. Bucking these large logs can be hazardous at a height. However, the benefits of lifting the log are many as well. As mentioned earlier, we had a ton of rain, and as a result, quite a bit of mud has developed. We attempted to keep the logs as free from mud and debris as possible to help save our blades on our chainsaws and our mill.
This log here will be taken to the mill and sawed into lumber. And you'll see the process as we turn that into lumber. This log is a little bit over 10 foot long, has a little trim on it. Has a little bit of end split here on this end. So we're just gonna kind of leave it go. You can see it right here. When the tree fell in the woods, obviously it shook the top of the tree and it split some of it that way. Good part is we can take this log and we could roll it on the mill and utilize the rest of the log. So the rest of this here all has good meat in it that we can get a lot of lumber out of. So you guys will see that in the video.
How many rings per inch would you say it is?
This thing here, I would say probably 10 rings to the inch. So it's pretty dense growth. This is considered second growth Orford Cedar, but for second growth, it's pretty tight grained. So it's would be similar to what the old growth stuff was. So we're gonna have Mel haul this to the mill for us.
As you'll see here, I had to jump off camera duties and do some real mill work with a PV and ground guidance. Our little operation requires all hands on deck, and we are all trained on mill operations and all the equipment. As you can see, we sharpened our chainsaw blades and things are running a bit more smoothly. Our hydraulics are being a bit logy here, and we discovered the coastal salt air has been playing havoc on the connection. We sanded the connection per Wood-Mizer service professionals, and that worked pretty well. We will probably have to continue sanding periodically. Here you can see the sawyer strategically placing the log to cut out the crack to get to the meat of the log. Hopefully this log shows no other signs of shake or cracking. Shake is when a log loses integrity when falling or handled roughly when being processed or shipped. The sawyer is considering resawing the slab wood to possibly make some lumber. It may have a small piece in there. Here he has to consider the cost versus benefit on time and labor input. As you can see, he opted out. The sawyer is measuring the face or width that he can get out of the next board in his cut. A sawyer must constantly be considering what is available in the log at any given time and position of the log. Additionally, he is holding in his mind each order he has up against these logs. Currently, he is sawing for 3 separate orders with varying widths and thicknesses. Mr. Sasquatch sure does a lot of mathematics during the day. Mel is tightening the blade tension on the mill. Our blades require a tension between 2800 and 3000 psi. Too little tension and the blade can wobble and give a wonky cut and even be pulled, causing damage to the blade and fiber. Too much tension and the blade could bust. The hotter the blade gets, the more tension will automatically occur and must be loosened. This is something the sawyer must also keep in mind when sawing, especially when working out in the sun. Ideally, the assistant will help out by minding the tension regularly to take this task off the sawyer's plate. Orford Cedar has very stringy bark and can easily get tangled in the blade and dust chute. This is also challenging with redwood. We are used to clearing it out quite frequently. The sawyer has noticed a particularly challenging piece. The sawyer changes the blade when he notices variances in cutting. Typically, this can be seen in the actual cut and may appear as subtle blade marks in the grain up to thick and thin lumber for very severe need for a blade change. The sawyer will also feel the resistance in the sawing, and if you're listening closely, you can hear the change in the sawing tone when a blade needs sharpening. Also, you were able to witness Sasquatch wind up a blade there. He makes it look easy, but I assure you, it takes a lot of strength and a steady hand. The same goes for unwinding a blade. If they get out of hand, it can be very dangerous very quickly. It is very important to keep the blade area free from debris. Mel does a wonderful job at keeping things tidy. He keeps the mill impeccably clean, and that contributes to all of our safety and equipment longevity. Blade removal and installation can be done solo, but it makes it much easier with two people. The blade is 177 inches long and 1.5 inches wide, but a person could get a 1.25 inch wide blade. Our 38 horse motor is able to handle the wider blades, and we prefer the wider ones for stability and speed. The slabs or waste wood of the log are placed in a slab rack to contain them for ease of banding for storage. The slab rack was created by a local welder at our specifications. We chose this height and width to produce a slab pile equivalent to approximately 1 quart of wood. The bundle will weigh approximately 3,000 pounds and can vary depending upon species and dry time in the yard. We do end up selling these bundles very economically to help out with the heating costs to the locals. We do sell the bundles very economically to help out with the heating costs to the locals. Additionally, we give away the sawdust for landscaping and agricultural projects locally. All of this helps to ensure that no part of the log is wasted. This log has a much bigger story in our community than just the lumber from our mill. The sawyer is turning the log on the opposite side to glean a better piece of lumber. The side he was sawing on had shake and was disrupting the integrity of the boards. Sometimes these challenges within the logs can't be seen until the cut is made. It can be disheartening. However, it can also be a joyful thing when a cut is made to reveal an unbelievably beautiful grain or figure hidden within the wood. I guess you could say that is what keeps us coming back day after day.
Hundred thousand. That would be 25 thousandths less than an eighth of an inch. And it's consistent from one end to the other. That's how a good blade is supposed to run. Love circle mills. But I'll tell you what, band mills can make nice lumber too.
Every once in a while, a thin piece is made to ensure the remainder of the cant equals out to the proper measurements for lumber. On the LT40, due to the design of the mill, we can't easily cut less than 1 inch off the last board to finish it, so the sawyer cuts that thin piece prior to that last cut. Now, if he has done it properly, which of course he has, the next cuts will yield 3 1-inch boards. Here you are seeing the 2-inch board set aside from the log be placed back onto the mill for resaw down to a uniform size. Typically, our edging would be done with our edger. However, the shake in the log has led us to utilize the mill for a safer edging process. The next process for the log is the edger. The pieces of the log that were cut off and have wane, which is the bark or taper at the edges, is placed on the edger to saw down to the desired board size. The edger allows us to select the size, and the blades within the edger move to cut the board. The cut board and the waste pieces come out the other end. In our mill, we call the person feeding the boards the feeder or header, and they are responsible for setting the blades for width of the board and feeding the boards in. The person receiving the cut boards is the tailor, or who tails the mill and sorts the finished boards. The tailor will either return the board if it must be recut or stack the lumber appropriately. When working in a group of two, the tailor simply stacks the waste wood on the floor. If there is a second tailor, that individual clears the waste wood and assists with stacking lumber. It is very important that neither the header nor the tailor stand directly in front of the lumber going in or coming out of the edger to avoid injury if the machine malfunctions. From here, the lumber is placed in carts and stickered. Stickering is a process in which we place small sticks between each row of lumber to allow for airflow and drying, and to avoid mold and discoloration from gathering on the lumber. We band these bundles and store them until our customers come to retrieve their items. This is the life of a log on our mill. Here are a few photos of the life of a log beyond our mill in some of the projects of our wonderful customers.